All right, so I am here. This is the 19th episode of On That Note. I'm sitting down with Mike and Zach from the band The Fae, which is a like bluesy rock band from Lincoln, Nebraska. Really, really talented dudes. And we're going to start by breaking down a track that they have called The Cool. So the track starts with that like really just badass riff.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I loved that I really noticed was the very last time the riff plays, there's a slight variation on it. And the bass actually foreshadows that in a fill about like 2 rotations before that. I know neither of you are the bass player. But was that a conversation? Was that something you guys noticed and had talked about? Where it was like,
well, actually, man, that was just like a form of the song being written, like a form of the songwriting in itself. I guess I never broke it down as much as that, other than using repetition. Using something that matches the intro from to switch it into basically now we're getting into the song. But that's pretty much, the thought process behind that. It wasn't really, I guess, talked about in that sense. It was just more of like, this works.
Yeah. Cool. And where did that riff come from? What was the first part of that? Was that there from the beginning?
So basically, when I started writing the song, I was writing basically like the main part of the song, the verses, the verse into the chorus. And because we're such a strong, like heavy, like, rock soul band, this was the first song that we kind of got out of that, like, minor key, playing something that's really hard driven, hopping into a major key that's a little bit more bright, a little bit more happier sounding. And so I was like, man, I really want an intro that kind of like says, oh, this is still the Fae. Then let's drop it off to a major key. So after I was working on a song, I switched back and I was like, okay, now let's start with something that just kind of something that's a little heavier. So that was like the thought process behind that, just to keep that same like, there's the two other songs on that EP, Strawberry Lemonade. Like I said, they're minor keys. They're heavier. They're driven down that lane. So when I knew I wanted this song to be on that EP, I was like, let's still have something start with the minor key, then let's switch it off to the thing. Okay. So that was kind of the whole process for that intro.
And that transition works so well. And then the leads you're doing on that part, were those always there, or was that something like you wanted to kind of fill in those kind of gaps?
It's that callback to like that blues thing where it's like call and response, right? Yeah. You get that riff going, and then I respond to that, that kind of thing. And it's really just kind of like we'll get together and say, okay, we want to riff here. Yeah. What are we feeling here?
Exactly. Yeah. Now like his riff, his solo within that part was exactly the same, like that call and response, but at the same time, still leaving the space for him to experiment as a soloist still. Yeah. And so we really, we started off like that, and he had came up with a few different, riffs and licks on that, and kind of like narrowed it down, shrunk it down to that one. Yeah. And really it was like, Michael can just, do all. I'm sure. And it was one of those things that was like, let's simplify, really make it simple. And that was like the whole point of that was just to kind of use that string part as the, string synth part, and then Michael's solo as the kind of call response between those two. Yeah.
Cool. And then, calling back that melody within the solo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you talked about that transition where it goes from that kind of F minor heavy riff into the F major kind of thing.
Yep.
And that was actually what stuck out to me the most, and that's the reason I kind of picked this song to break down, is because after I heard that riff, I was not expecting verse there at all. What you mentioned was really interesting about wanting to go from that like very traditional thing zone that you guys were comfortable into something brighter. So was that idea there from the very beginning of the song, or did you have the riff and then you were like, we need to go somewhere new with it?
No, well, I mean, like I said, we started writing the song, the major key, the part of that part of the song. I guess it was all parts of it. It wasn't something that was like later thought about. It was more of in a sense of like, what matches where I want to go with the rest of the song. But at the same time, like you said, like heading down that lane where it's just driving, rock soul heavy. It was kind of like this. I really want to match that whole like Beatlesque. That's what I can say all the time. Like like in between like the Beatles and Prince, like that whole kind of thing. So we kind of like mush those together. But that, I think it was more of just a thought process of thought process of keeping those together. But no, it wasn't something that was later thought about down the road or anything like that. It was all.
And then the vocal melody on that has some really great call and response kind of things going on.
Yeah.
And it also is it's so sunny.
Yeah.
Even though it's all in that kind of minor pentatonic, D minor pentatonic, F major pentatonic thing.
Yeah.
Very simple but really effective. So how do you usually approach melody writing in that kind of situation?
So are you talking about more of like the backup stuff on the intro part, or more?
No, I do have some specific questions about the backup vocals because those are so prominent. But I'm talking about like your main melody, the one that's double. It's
exactly. It's just double. Exactly. Yep. Man, that was, like I said, that was to basically explain it. It's kind of like we're all about that nostalgia as a band. Holding on to those like historic classic time periods. Whether it be the '60s, the '70s, the '80s. We like to try to hold on to those things. And really take music as 20, 30-year-olds and go back in that time. And so I guess it was just more of trying to match that style. This album was kind of, I've always visioned this EP as like a 70s late or a mid to late 70s type of a sound, and it was more of a sense of trying to match that style, hold on to that, like I said, that Beatlesque type of feel, a little bit of like Aretha Franklin, Prince type of thing to it. That was like the first time I've ever done a song in this band, like in falsetto like that.
Okay.
Like I've never have.
Really?
That was the first time I've ever done that.
It sounds so natural.
Thank
Super
you.
strong.
Thank you. That's good to hear. But that was definitely the first time I've ever done that. And to be honest, I was a little nervous of how to approach that because of this band's always really strong, heavy. Me singing at my really powerful diaphragm voice. So that was and that's, I guess that was the whole thought. Just really make it sunny, like you said, really happy, at the same time soulful, bluesy. I think that was
cool. Yeah. And then so Mike, when Zach brings you a song like that, and obviously you guys do have like a strong like retro vibe, but you're still obviously trying to push forward. So what, as a guitarist, what kind of things are you doing melodically and harmonically as well as tone-wise to kind of bring it into that retro but still forward-thinking space?
Well, it's a role of, you're supportive but you're also present, that kind of thing. And you can still have melodies within a supportive role.
Of course, yeah.
And having those counter melodies to a melody like that is only going to add to a song and reinforce that chord progression, that whatever we're doing behind it, or whatever that.
For sure.
Hopefully that kind of
absolutely.
Okay, good. Yeah. Good.
And then, so there is one moment, I don't know if this was how mapped out this was, when you're saying the lyric, a fuse to my heart.
Yeah.
It's actually, I was trying to map it into Sibelius, and it was kind of in between vibe, but it feels almost like a quintuplet kind of phrase.
Yeah.
Was that an intentional thing? No. Or just trying to fit all those syllables?
That just kind of fit too. That's crazy to think about. Like, whoa, no, that was what works.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that's a lot of our process behind writing music is just those vibes, man. If it just if it works in that sense. So I know I get like it's cool to hear it like that.
Yeah, it is. It's 4 syllables, but it's after the downbeat, and so I kind of mapped it as a quintuplet, and that was working the closest. It's probably slightly a little different, but it's an interesting little thing. I'll show you that too.
Nice.
And so then it goes into the chorus section. With a slight key change to kind of the B flat area. So first off, the backing vocals there. So they're throughout the verse, and they're really well arranged. How are those coming about?
Yeah, so that's kind of like the process behind that, or the thought process behind that, was kind of like the doo-wop kind of a thing. The whole call and response type of thing, little doo-wop vocally. Even the way we recorded it was, we usually, when I record backup vocals, separately do each harmony in a sense. We want to keep it in that old school vibe where it was me and 2 other backup singers all at the same time singing at once, 3 different harmonies at once. And so the process was still just to hold on to that like old school doo-wop back and forth, kind of vibe to it. And then like in the chorus, when it goes to it, holding on to where it's not quite as a call and response as it sounds like, it's just like a chord, so the backup vocals are just holding on through chords,
so
kind of giving that presence
juxtaposition between something more staccato and then more held out. Got it. Cool. And then chorus wise, what is the lyric at the very end of the chorus? Because it almost sounds like you're saying, "I'm scared when I'm naked," which I'm assuming is not what it is.
No, that's not it. That's not it. Now I gotta tell you sing it. Oh, I'm afraid, but I won't fight again.
I'm afraid, but I won't fight again.
Yeah. I was like, wait, what is it?
That was just tripping me out there. And then it ends on that great, those two hits, goes back to the verse for another rotation, and then goes into the guitar solo. And so what do you... I mean, every guitarist that I've ever talked to has had a very different philosophy on solos. So what is your kind of approach when you're given that space? What are you thinking about and wanting to do?
That specific solo is actually one that Zach wrote out.
Oh, really? Yeah. That solo was, it was almost thought as maybe going to be like a synth part.
Okay.
It was going to, drop into that and then go into a synth part, and I was just going to have the guitar do some chords and stuff behind it, whatever. And I was like, wait, no, let's just keep it straight to that point, to that style, and just have, the guitar run that melody as a solo. We never really do that. It's usually just like, okay, Michael, this is solo part. Go, and like this was the first time. Like I said, we just composed. Exactly. This song was really supposed to be driven straight down that pop lane, and so I was listening to the Eagles, and that song is Hotel California, where they're doing that solo and they're just harmonizing whatever. That was kind of whole thought process behind that solo was just
And because it is harmonized, and it has like a very because it comes in with a very like 80s guitar tone, which is now again another kind of unexpected thing that does fit
for sure.
And then the pacing of that section the pacing of the whole song is really kind of interesting in terms of like talking about pacing almost like a movie. Like you have the solo with those breaks in it where it seems like it's going to stop and then it starts again.
For sure.
So what was your kind of thought process as you were going through that section in terms of like making it stutter almost?
Like, really, again, I mean, I can keep going back, but I think that's just really holding on to, like, listening to those old songs and stuff, and they have these cool breakdowns, and they pop back, come back up in that pop value type of a sound. What's crazy is when we were recording it, a lot of the sound, obviously in instruments and stuff, the reverbs and things hang. And the engineers who we were recording it with decided to really like drop all those those reverbs, and so you think it's going to end. Exactly, very very dry. And when I first heard it, and he sent me a mix, and I first heard it, I was kind of like, I don't know, man. I kind of liked it hanging, but I think because of the just the presentation of it, I think it worked cool because it was something different, in that sense, really dropping it, and then all of a sudden the drums kind of lead you with a fill in, ding, 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 back to it, So that was kind of the thought process behind that.
Cool. I like that. And then it goes back to the chorus, and then kind of that ending again, kind of an abrupt ending for it because you kind of I was expecting there to like the very first time I heard it, I was like, oh, that's the end. Which is cool. But one thing that I think is really interesting, that is one of my favorite things when musicians do like a really cool part once. And so I was anticipating when I first heard the song that at some point that intro riff was going to come back. And so talk about your decision not to do that.
To be honest, the decision was for it to come back.
Okay.
That was my first decision. Basically, my first decision was to make it come back. I was like really trying to work on how I can make it come back naturally, make it come back. But one, time wise, because again we wanted to make it a straightforward pop song. Time was the thing that I wanted to do. I didn't want to really make it a long song past whatever, because it would have ended up being in 4 minutes and things like that. And then two, I think there's no better way to say, just like you said, like sometimes you just have to let something do it once. Sometimes, and as much as like I love repetition, man, I'm all about like even from like with art and everything, I love repeating things. I love seeing something again, just because it makes it full to me. But it was just one of those things. I think it was like, dude, that intro was super cool. The song's 3.5 minutes. If they want it again, push play again. It was like, I think that was kind of the thing behind it. But it was the first thought was to try to bring it back.
Okay, because that was what I was going to ask. If there was ever a version or a demo where it did come back around.
Our live version of it, we do bring it back.
Exactly. Exactly. Yep. So when we do play it live, we actually do bring it back. And we kind of grow it into something bigger. And the lyricist in our band, he raps to it, and grows something in that. But on the record, it was just kind of more of like, let's just keep it simple.
Cool.
Boom. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I like to end the interviews with 2 questions that I ask everybody. And the first one is, obviously this music that you guys are making is really well thought out and really well detailed and all that stuff. So explain, what was your music education process that led you to be able to make music like this?
Yeah, I'll let you go first.
Well, it all starts with Zach. Like, his songwriting is so strong that whenever I step into a new song or a new project like that, I'm always thinking of, like, okay, how can I be additive and not subtractive to whatever we're doing here? And I think, that's everybody's goal, is to do something like that. For sure. My education, I was a jazz bass player who then went to school for classical tuba, and then somehow I ended up as a blues guitarist.
The normal path.
Right. The Hendrix days of being a tuba player, and then he decided to pick up that guitar.
Yeah.
So I had that super varied background. So he'll come with like a new idea, and it's just like, oh man, yeah, let's try a little something like this. Like let's add a little jazzy stuff, and he does a really good job of kind of reining that back a bit, and not letting me get too notey, too crazy.
I think that's a great way to explain it, because I started on I went to school for jazz percussion.
Okay.
I played jazz, trap pretty much from high school all the way through college. Drums is my main instrument. Piano was more jumped onto because I wanted to songwrite. Okay. So I use piano as a tool to whatever. I don't really consider myself a pianist like that at all. I'm a drummer that dabs on the keys. And so when outside of schooling, though, I got strong into music production. I was all about producing, and a lot of my producing and stuff was electronic. I was producing for a lot of hip hop artists, a lot of pop artists, and things like that. And so I guess I held strong to that songwriting value. I'm all about trying to write a song. Give us something strong, a song. And the power of a song is so much more worthy than a whole bunch of great musicians jamming on stage. And so I really try to hold on to that value of producing songs. And we work really well together because one, I think obviously the talent can hold itself. On top of that, we, just like you said, we know when to say, we can add, we got to pull back, things like that. And I think that really is what helps us form these songs that people are getting attracted to and listening to. It's just the understanding of knowing what people can say or people can digest. There's a certain level of music that people can digest. Like, I know Michael can do so much. I've heard a lot of his stuff outside of whatever, and demos and things like that. But sometimes you gotta say, that's not digestible. People can. I mean, it's whatever. But as for what we want in this band, let's make it easy to eat, or easy to digest. And that's kind of like the whole point of this songwriting, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. You do a good job of giving me my moments, though.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, for sure.
Now, get out.
One of my biggest things that my dad used to say all the time. My dad, him knowing the music production songwriter side that I have. He says, okay, who's your talent in the band? And okay, these guys, whatever. He here's Michael, and he's like, dude, that dude can play. And he always tells me, no joke. He's honestly told me. He said, Zach, what do you do to make sure that you're using him as a tool? And I had it like for the longest, I was always like, dude, let's play it this way, whatever, and not in a martyr way, but just because the song was ever, and it was like, dude, this is what I heard, let's just play it.
That's the vision.
Exactly. But like when I heard him say that, and that was years ago, he said that to me, I really took that to heart and was like, hold on, I gotta let Michael be the guitarist that he is, and let John be the bassist he is, things like that. So that's all maturity and growing and being a songwriter, producer,
being a team.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, absolutely. For sure.
And then the other question I always ask everybody is, if you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice about music making and being an artist in general, what would it be?
Go. Yeah, I would say that.
Dude, mine would, it was crazy because I was talking to my girlfriend about it. Mine would definitely be just like, man, I was so wanting to be a songwriter so much that I let go of studying music as reading and composition and theory, things like that. I pulled back when I dropped that. As soon as I knew like the basic theory, I was like, I'm gone. Okay? I just want to go write songs. I can make my own music. I can do it. I can whatever. I don't need these professors and things anymore. So I think my biggest thing that I wish I would have held on to more is just is digging even deeper into that theory. That is one thing I commend like him and John about. Like they are theorists, like they know their stuff, and it is so important. It's one of the biggest things like I really commend them for because, and I say to everybody, they're the theory guys of the band, and that's one thing I feel like myself personally, I wish I would have held on a little bit more to for sure. Yeah.
I would have told my younger self like it's okay to take the guitar more seriously than I did. It was always just something fun I did on the side.
Yeah, for sure.
I started playing in front of people, and they were like, "Hey, you're not too bad at this. You should take it seriously." And I was like, "Oh no!" But the tuba is my thing. I can't. Guitar is so silly.
Yeah.
And so I would have given myself that like permission. To just be like, okay, for sure. Put some time into this. Like, take it seriously. It's okay to do that.
It does sound like you took it pretty seriously.
I do now.
So nobody would ever know that.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that's so interesting. Just the idea of like a teenage, I'm assuming, just being like, the guitar is silly, the tuba is serious. Like that's so.
That is so different than
diametrically opposed to what I was like as a teenager. But that's really great.
For sure.
And so awesome. Is there anything you guys? I think I saw something on Instagram where you guys are going on tour soon. What do you guys have to promote? What's going on?
We're working on a new EP right now.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about me starting into this electronic side of production and everything. Took a trip to LA, got super inspired, basically wanted to start using that electronic side more into this band now. For the first time with this band that we're kind of using more of electronic side. Again, we're all about that nostalgia, going back to those classics. And so we our first EP, Red Moon, was definitely like the 60s, we definitely, the way we recorded it was, all natural stuff. We didn't really use a lot of anything that wasn't unnatural, even the reverbs and stuff. We pretty much used the rooms and stuff. Second one, still in that sense, I would say that was more like the 70s in a sense, and then the Strawberry Lemonade was definitely like the 70s type of feel, 70s into 80s. So with this one, we're driving down that 80s lane. It's kind of like, everybody says, "Oh, the 80s, they'll never bring that back." Dude, I love those time periods. I love, holding on to those old school time, from the art to the furniture to the fashion to music. It's all about holding on to those classics, And so we're working on an EP right now called Palm Tree Shade. That's, with that electronic feel. Going on tour for basically 2 months in August.
Awesome.
South, a little bit into the southeast, and then going into September, then we'll go into like east, Rest Belt and all that stuff.
Okay.
That's kind of our plan right now. Working on music and then hitting the road in August and September.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys very much for sitting down and sharing your knowledge.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Thanks.